So I've been starting collecting some old video games. Why am I writing so? And I figured I would get Final Fantasy for NES or SNES. You know, the old ones, the old games, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and so on. Even though, well, in the US, we all know this, that it released as Final Fantasy 1 and 2, and they were 1, 2, and 3, which 2 was 4 and 3 was 6. But here in Europe, let's type NES 2. It apparently does not exist. So I wanted to add these to my collection. It's a humble, small collection. I'll show some footage while I speak about this. And, well, as I said, it does not exist. It's just the NTSC that they sell here in Europe too. And the Japanese, as you can see here, 2, and I'm guessing that's 3. And Final Fantasy 1 for NES. So I was like, okay, well that's weird. I can't seem to find them, not even on the the ended auctions. As you can see, it's only, this is the Japanese version. NTSC, yeah, you can see. But there is, speaking of it, Mystic Quest Legend, I think it's. This is the European version, yeah, PAL version. PAL. So this is the Final Fantasy of the. It actually says on the box here, entry-level role-playing adventure, which they sold in both the US and in Europe. To kind of ease in people into the RPG genre of the JRPG genre. So that's where it ends in Europe, with the Mystic Quest Legend. Actually, it's called Legend here too. So I was thinking, when did actually the first Final Fantasy come out in Europe? Because it ends right here with the Mystic Quest. So I was looking around the internet. It's not any rocket science or something like that. You can easily look this up yourself. As you can see, Wikipedia. So PAL version of the Final Fantasy 1 was actually released in 2003. So I was like, what the heck? So what was actually the first one? And it was Final Fantasy 7. I think actually released on my birthday. So that's interesting. Let's scroll down to Final Fantasy 7. Well, it says different here. Whatever. It's Wikipedia and everything else. You can't trust it. But it was released on PlayStation in '97 here in Europe, and then Final Fantasy 8 '99. 9 in 2001, 10 in 2002. So these 4 games, which honestly are, the main series, really good games of Final Fantasy, released before even the 10 released. Actually, yeah, Final Fantasy 10 released before Final Fantasy 1 in Europe. So I was thinking, what the hell is going on? Why, though? Why didn't we get anything before Final Fantasy 7? Oh, and just to clarify, if I might chime in here from my future self, the reason why we didn't get them in Europe was actually because they didn't do very well in the US in the first place. Final Fantasy 6, this is a article from Polygon. From 2017, they write that they struggled in North America, and of course in Europe, because they were never released here, because they struggled in North America. So that was it. They actually did very well in Japan, but not so very much in the US. So they didn't want to make localize the games even further to Europe, so that's why we didn't get them. I feel like the first time I recorded this, I didn't actually end my point, my argument of why it didn't release. So, well, there you go. Because I wanted to add these to my collection, you know, you want the originals, right? But you can't get them as in a PAL version, which is what I want. Honestly, I'm not very interested in the US or Japanese versions of these games, because, well, they're not native to this region, so it's kind of, you know, it's also much more cheaper to buy NTSC. Let's see. Let's take an example. Maybe let's see. Let's take Donkey Kong Country for as an example. I'm sure there are some NTSC or Japanese versions of this out now. Yeah, I mean, as you can see. So this is the PAL version. PAL, PAL, and PAL, whatever. Well, okay, fine. They are usually cheaper. This is $2.95. This is $3.35. Yeah, you can see the prices. They are usually much cheaper to buy because of what I said before. Here's a Japanese version actually, which is $169. And I don't see any wrong with this game. You know, it's actually in pretty good condition. And let's compare to well, the next one right here, from the same seller. As you can see, it's I think it's double the price, yeah, pretty much. So, and this is not even a Swedish version either. This is France and something else. I have that. Let me show you. And this is fun when you are looking for games in the PAL region, because there's so many different ones. Here's a whole lot of different ones. FAH, which one is? It's down here. It's France, Netherlands, and Belgium. The games are still in English with these. So, and that's the thing you need to look at when you look at PAL games. There's so many regions that you don't want your game in German if you are, well, an English speaker or from Scandinavia. Then you would like to have the Scandinavian game, because that's, you know, native to your region. And maybe I'm just that kind of person that I want that. I'm not that nitpicky with it. I mean, I do have some German version of Mickey Magical Place something. I'll show it on the screen right now. So that's one that I have. I actually bought it by mistake. I didn't really look at the auction instruction, what do you call it, information. So yeah, and I was pretty sad when I saw it wasn't in German. I was like, no, oh god. Well, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna sell it eventually anyway, because I'm not looking to have that particular game in my collection as, you know, permanent. I only want a small collection of games, like 15-20 games max, of some systems, especially for NES. It's easy to get carried away with how many games you get, because there are actually a lot of good games that are well, not cheap, but they are they're nice to look at. Okay. So I thought that was interesting, because finding games, I guess the point of this video is finding games in Europe compared to the US. I follow a lot of channels that look for games in the US, and these people seem to have an easier time finding games that, you know, it's only one type of game. It's the US version, right? It's the NTSC. But here in PAL regions, it's way harder to find, you know, the one that you want. And I think that's fun in a way when you're looking for games. No, I don't only look for games on this site. It's probably the best site for me personally here in Sweden, alongside with Facebook. It's actually pretty good. Sometimes you can find people putting out stuff there that is way too cheap that, you know, oh man, I should buy that and sell it. Usually I just keep the stuff because I'm looking for it, but if I eventually want to sell it, I know I can make a buck on it, and that's always a bonus. It's not my it's not the point of me collecting games. The point is actually, you know, having them, looking at them and playing them and eventually beating them. So yeah, I'm actually waiting for a couple games that I bought. God damn, I bought one that was maybe worth the price, but it was a bit too much that I didn't want to pay that much for it, but I did. And it's nothing wow really big, but I usually don't pay that much for games. And maybe I show that in another video once it arrives. Maybe I could make it. I could make that video in you know, an opening video, a mail opening, because I bought 4 games, so it should be interesting. Anyway, I'm just scrolling around the internet right now, and well, yeah, I can't find Final Fantasy here in the PAL region. The only one I can find is Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9, I guess, for the PlayStation 1. I mean, sure, there's the anthology releases and stuff like that, but I'm not very interested in those, mostly because they're not good games to play on the PlayStation 1. Yeah, and we all know the deal with that. And if you don't look it up before you buy it, because there's some issues with it. All right. Thank you for listening to my rambles. If there's anyone listening, I'm looking to start up a small little channel on YouTube here for game collecting in the PAL region. Yeah, so that could be interesting. There's a lot of differences from NTSC to PAL, so yeah. I should stop say so, yeah. Alright, end the video.